And it feels like the FOMO that we all know from Instagram and TikTok has moved into to corporate life, into boardrooms. We all just have to go faster and faster and faster because we're going to lose to the competition. What is the right approach there? I mean, we should go fast because, of course, we don't want to lose to the competition. But
Mhm.
FOMO maybe isn't the right answer. What is?
Yeah, intentionality. It comes down to I don't have like a concise technical answer to that question, but if you can experiment with intention, like you have a well-defined problem space, and you have an idea that has a reasonable relationship to that problem space that you can test and actually design a thing that if it is going to work, we should be able to see X, Y, and Z when we put it out to market. I think that gets you ahead a lot more quickly. In addition, if you take this risk-based kind of approach and welcome risk as a bit of a design constraint and requirements gathering exercise, I have found that we will actually get insights from people earlier on that create space for competitive differentiation. There's an example that I like to share. It's very kind of tiny, but you can imagine how this could be the source for a bigger kind of shift. But I was looking at, and for this large company, we were mapping out student workflows, how they actually go through using different tools to do their work. We entertain the idea of using AI, some form of, I don't know if it was generative at the time, machine learning, it doesn't matter, but some form of AI to kind of test their knowledge throughout. Well, this student base was medical students who are self-testing all of the time. And they said pretty clearly in testing, like, please do not introduce that tool because we are under so much stress at this point. This is just another layer of it that we don't need. And I thought that was not only insightful as to how we would construe that project, but also imagine if we rethought the idea and said, how can we make a tool that helps educate students, but also gives them this moral support, helps them to de-stress, maybe insinuates like positive, reinforcement versus sort of this negative reinforcement. And so, but that was because we took the time to talk to, 5, 10 folks and walk them through the concept. So I think you can get a lot of differentiation out of doing these things, and on the surface might feel a little cumbersome at the outset, but they don't have to be executed in a cumbersome way.
So what do we do with competitor stress, right? Our competitors, that's apparently, or at least in the press releases that they put out, have already solved all of the problems that we're still looking at. How do we ignore those?
Right. But well, gosh, how to even begin with that one? There is so much hype in the space, and as I'm working with, particularly those in smaller organizations who are just trying to grapple with like kind of like basic use of some of this Gen AI and what would be appropriate for what use case. It's really kind of having a bit of a paralyzing effect. It's like it's almost like so much, and the pressure is so high that I think understanding those friction points is a good place to start. So when I go in to an organization and we're talking about governance, it's really more about like what is holding you back right now. Is it education? Is it really skill using the tools or understanding how to build in appropriate monitoring or metrics? Pinpointing the idea or the friction point earlier is really kind of the way forward to move more quickly. But it is not telling people you must adopt this today and just move forward, because you would be. I mean, you're kind of laughing a little bit because I think it just reads as like deer in the headlights, kind of a paralyzing mandate that people get. So the human aspect of that is we can't mentally, emotionally, and our organizational systems cannot quite keep pace. So rather than moving everything all at once, what are the key things moving us, or keeping us from moving forward in the way we want to? And are people, do we have a shared understanding about what that is?
And I think what you just said is one of the biggest questions that I have with what's happening in the world today. So would love to get your take on that. It's going so fast that I mean, I'm very technical, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
read a lot and I experiment a lot and I play with a lot and I'm sort of feel like I'm able to keep up. I can't imagine how other people even can keep up with all of this, going from all of the next models to image generation to agents to teams of agents. It's going so incredibly fast. How do we get people along? How do we take people along without pushing it on them or getting that deer in the headlights view that you just spoke about.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think one idea I would propose on that is to maybe think of it less as how can individual performers keep up with everything, and how can we collectively, as an organization, knowledge share and help support others in keeping up. One of the things that I have found to be true is that you're right. There's a natural limit to what we can absorb. So we have to be a bit selective. Now, fortunately, AI and other tools give us the ability to really hone in on the things that we need to know. And that might change over time, but I think we do have to tune some of it out. The technology itself, there's so much hype about, for example, artificial general intelligence. I am one of those who just isn't quite sold on these kind of grand kind of visions for how intelligent, quote unquote, these systems can become. But like the day to day is you've got people who are maybe over relying on chatbots to make decisions, or not quite sure how to deal with hallucinations. So like let's focus on those problems. There's lots of research, to your point, on these topics, as these aren't new techniques entirely. I mean, some of the applications, of course, are new. So there's some selectivity, but it presupposes some kind of goal or agenda that leadership, our CTOs and their peers, really need to establish for the organization. So I would say think collectively versus individually. And one thing that I have done for now, I'm bringing it back to the individual, but I will share one of the great things about generative AI that I have really enjoyed is the ability to build and use that process as a way to kind of interrogate my own assumptions. So I have built GPTs that encapsulate my thought process as I evaluate an AI use case, and then run it through there with some, levers and selections to help, just sort of depict the use case. And then what it feeds back to me isn't an answer to a question, but it's a methodology for what conversations need to be had, what other information are we lacking. So can we use these tools to help us be more strategic and selective? Like that might be another avenue to explore, but we're certainly all figuring it out together, I think is fair.
And I love that and some of the challenges and the risks that we have with AI, then some, at least part of the answer. I mean, of course, it's a lot of the things that you just said and having the right models and the right thought process, but AI being part of that solution as well. It's
Yeah,
yeah, very
absolutely.
nice.